Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss Elon Musk's reaction to quite a few major advertisers pulling out of Twitter as a result of claims that the ads were seen alongside anti-Semitic content. And it draws certain parallels with the adpocalypse that YouTube experienced some years ago, only Space Karen is taking the opposite approach to that of YouTube. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So first of all, why does this really matter? Political channel and all that. Well, Twitter, or X if you insist, although please don't, is a very important social media platform. There are some platforms that have, of course, their fans, otherwise they wouldn't exist. And those fans would be distraught if those platforms disappeared. Every now and then, social media platforms do collapse. But there are others which actually serve a good purpose, not just useful to some people, actually a good purpose. Twitter and YouTube being amongst them. YouTube is brilliant for people wanting to know how to do something or to learn why something behaves as it does. And it's okay, it's not immune to misinformation, but it is a good outlet for information if you know how to find it. Twitter, however, because you can share information really quickly and concisely, is the media outlet of choice for experts. If an expert in anything wants to explain something that's just happened, like a scientific breakthrough, an interesting court case, some political intrigue, that sort of thing, Twitter's a really good place to do it. Like, very few experts are going to go, oh, I've got to record a video on this and stick it on YouTube. That's not where people are going to go. It's not where experts want to go, by and large. That's more for explaining things that are a bit more evergreen, where they've got more time to do it. You know, Twitter is a great place to get a main point across in a few sentences. As a result, Twitter attracts experts, journalists, politicians like no other social media platform. It's a platform used by some who want to spread misinformation, but it is also used by those who want to genuinely inform. And if you've got the right critical thinking skills to tell the difference, you can end up getting up-to-date insights from people who really know what's going on. That's the value it is for me. But although left and right both use it, the left and the right wing both use it, Twitter is more valuable to the left because we don't really have much else. The right wing would be more than happy to see all social media platforms disappear. No problem at all. Because what's the alternative? The mainstream media like it used to be, and they bought that generations ago. So when Space Karen bought Twitter, people were suspicious. He doesn't even try to hide his extreme right-wing views or partisan political allegiances. When he immediately set to work getting rid of team after team and undermining the integrity of the platform, it was hard to argue against the notion that he had bought it specifically to either stop the left wing being able to usefully utilise it or just destroy the platform altogether. Twitter is incredibly useful to me as a political observer who, unlike, say, a Westminster journalist, doesn't actually get the lowdown on what's going on with face-to-face interviews. I use Twitter not to express my views primarily. It's not really a platform for me. Unlike with YouTube, it's to listen. I use it to listen rather than to speak so much. And despite the damage done to the platform, I can still do that. There are some that I follow who now don't really post that much on Twitter. So it has lost a bit of value, but the value is still there. But now there's a bit of a situation. Space Karen is suing American Watchdog called Media Matters. Now, they've got a bit of a habit of calling out right-wing media organisations when they spread disinformation. So as you can imagine, not Musk's favourite organisation. And a few days ago, Media Matters claimed that it had found adverts from IBM, Apple, corporations like that, featuring alongside content on Twitter that was praising the Nazis. Now, this is very reminiscent of a situation that hit YouTube a few years back. Back when I was working on my gaming channel rather than political channel, the so-called adpocalypse hit. So what happened was there were claims initially in the British press, but then it spread to American newspapers as well, that big name advertisers, I think it might have included like Pepsi or people like that, but there were some big name advertisers having their ads appearing allegedly on videos which seemed to be glorifying ISIS and similar groups. Now, I don't know how big or serious an issue it was, because on the one hand, YouTube was really challenging mainstream media. So it was obvious that the British American press would use any excuse to attack YouTube because YouTube was like in direct competition with them. They were their competitors. But at the same time, if you have got adverts appearing on videos like that, then it is right to draw attention to it. But regardless of how valid the stories were, those big name sponsors said they would stop advertising on YouTube if they didn't do something to protect their brand reputation, because they certainly didn't want to be associated with videos like that. So YouTube started to put in systems to make it harder to monetize the video content. Now, as someone who was monetizing video content at the time, I could tell you it was a bit of a wild time until YouTube got a handle on it. Their systems are still not perfect, but they have improved massively since then. But the point is that YouTube recognized its responsibility to manage its platform, and the issue has been dealt with. You don't really get big advertisers going, oh, we don't like this with YouTube, you need to do this thing. They're constantly evolving the systems anyway with a focus on what their advertisers need, because for YouTube to exist, they need their advertisers. You know, and they do lean on the side of demonetize if unsure, with a system of manual checking if you think the algorithm screwed you over. Like, I've had 2 videos in the last week or so demonetized. They both came back clean when checked by an actual person. But because I make every effort to avoid content which will fall foul of their community guidelines, sometimes there's the odd topic that I might need to talk about and I think, ooh, that'll be a bit dodgy. And I just don't. So in my case, it very rarely happens, and I've had no community strikes. Space Karen is taking a somewhat different approach to YouTube. So rather than recognise that all those systems for vetting, because Twitter was actually starting to make real progress in terms of dealing with misinformation. Indeed, there are still some systems there, like the community notes, but they were doing really well. And then Musk started stripping them away. So rather than recognise that this is now being caused because he did that, he's instead decided that someone has done something he doesn't like. And so he does what everyone in the USA with money is taught to do, so the crap out of them. He says he's issuing a thermonuclear lawsuit as soon as the courts open up on Monday. Now, according to an article in The Guardian, it does not even appear to be the case that Musk is denying that the adverts appeared alongside anti-Semitic content. He appears to be making the point that free speech means people have to be subject to views that they find objectionable. But, and I'm not an expert on American litigation here, or indeed any litigation, but this sounds like the GB News trap, doesn't it? You know, when advertisers say that they're not going to advertise on GB News because of their content, GB News always go on the attack. Oh, this is an attack on our free speech. It's like, well, what about the freedom for companies to advertise where they choose? Imagine if I wrote to Coca-Cola saying it's an attack on my freedom of speech that they don't give me 100,000, that they don't sponsor my channel for £100,000 a year or something. Imagine me trying to say that's an attack on my freedom of speech. And yet that's what GB News do. And that's what Space Karen seems to be doing at the moment. Like, if IBM decide not to advertise on Twitter because they don't want their brand being associated with some of the stuff that the platform is allowing, that's their free speech, isn't it? Surely their freedom of speech allows them to say, we don't want to advertise here. I'm really not sure what suing Media Matters is supposed to do, other than try to break them financially and stop them doing their job in the future, or any similar organisations, for fear of vexatious lawsuits. I mean, first of all, they'll have obviously kept the receipts. They will have documented their claims that they've made with screen grabs and so on. So proving what they said was untrue does not seem credible. And if Musk can't prove that they lied, what is he suing them for? It sounds to me like Space Karen is going to sue Media Matters for exercising their freedom of speech by calling out things they've seen on Twitter, which then prompted major corporations to exercise their freedom of speech by saying, we don't want to advertise on such a platform. And he's going to justify his lawsuit on the grounds of his freedom of speech. This might be one of the dumbest things I've heard in a while, and I spend almost my entire life following British politics. In fact, you almost wonder if by pursuing this lawsuit, Space Karen ends up with governments taking action to protect watchdogs against vexatious lawsuits. But there we are, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button, and if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.